Good morning. This is the meeting of the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Commission. I'm William L. Brown, Chairman of the Commission. There will be a sign-up sheet that is passed through the room. If you will, please sign your name, and if you're here to represent any specific group of sportsmen or sportswomen, please put that beside your name. At the time, if you want to address the commission, we'll ask you to do that at the time the subject matter about which you're here is being discussed. For example, if it's about deer during the wildlife discussion or any other subject, if it doesn't come up, then at the end of the agenda, we'll be glad to recognize you and allow you to speak. If so, please come to the center of the room to the microphone and state your name and what your business is with the commission. Okay, all right, at this time, we'll have the invocation. Ask Commissioner Wright if he would to give the invocation.
Let's pray. Our Heavenly Father, as we bow before you this morning, we come to you thanking you for all the things that, Father, you've given us, the good things in the outdoors that we enjoy, the beauty of your creation. We pray that, Father, you'll give us wisdom and knowledge to be able to take care of the wonderful resources that you've given us. Father, at this time, we just ask your blessings upon a friend and an officer of the agency there in the border. We ask that, God, that you would just give the doctors wisdom and knowledge as they doctor him and take care of him. And of course, God, we just ask that you would just comfort him and his wife with your grace and your mercy. And we thank you for all that you do in Jesus' name. Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Miss Jane, you going to do a roll call? According to this agenda, I think we're going to have one.
Jim Bledsoe.
Here.
William Brown.
Here.
Harold Cannon. Here. Jeffrey Griggs.
Here.
Julius Johnson. Robert Martino. Jeff McMillan.
Here.
Mitchell Parks.
Here.
Julie Schuster.
Here.
Trey Teague.
Here.
Daniel Welch. Eric Wright.
here.
Thank you.
9.
At this time, we will discuss the approval of the minutes of last month's meeting. Is there any discussion about the minutes?
Move to accept.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries. Where's Bobby Wilson? Bobby? Did Bobby, you want to come up and give us your?
Do it right here.
Sure.
Okay.
Sure.
Thank you, Commissioner Brown. I think I would be remiss if we had let a commission meeting go without mentioning the Alabama rig or umbrella rig. So I've got just want to pass out something that's actually not been printed by our print shop yet, but there's some examples of what's being printed. And it's the umbrella rig restriction with some examples of what is legal and what's not legal. So we're going to pass out to the wildlife officers, the creel clerks, and give out to the bait shops and places like that. So I just wanted to bring it to your attention.
None? Okay. All right, at this time, we'll have the presentations, and Darren, you're going to make the voting presentation?
Yes,
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Wright, for that. In talking earlier with Commissioner Cannon, he visited Gary last night. He's in good spirits and he's a good fighter, so let's keep him in our thoughts and prayers. Thank you. On behalf of the, excuse me, on behalf of the agency, the Boating and Law Enforcement Division would like to present the 2011 Tennessee Boating Officer of the Year to Pam McDonald. Pam's assigned work area is in Wayne County. It's in District 22, which is in the southern part of Middle Tennessee. And portions of the Tennessee River and the Buffalo River flow through there for boating opportunities. Pam's law enforcement efforts were outstanding. She inspected over 1,600 vessels for compliance, resulting in 24 citations, 5 warnings. She made 2 BUI arrests, and she also helped other officers make 35 court citations along with 1 BUI. In the area of education and outreach, Pam certified 140 students in boating safety. She worked public events, the Clifton River Bend Festival, and she also was participated in a free fishing day rodeo with 300 participants. Pam helped investigate, or actually she was the lead investigator on 6 boating accidents in Wayne County. 3 of those resulted in injuries that required 70 extra hours of extended investigative time. As a result of these investigations, criminal charges were placed. Now, this is where Pam really excelled, and it was a unique concept. She was instrumental in leading a effort to provide a safe boating environment on the Buffalo River, which is one of our state scenic rivers. And it's popular, very popular for the paddle sports. So, acting on complaints from the local landowners and the boating community, Pam helped set up some boating enforcement details to address alcohol and drug use on these paddle craft on the Buffalo River. The family boaters and the church groups were kind of having a hard time going out there having a good family time on this river. So in her concept, she pulled in the 22nd Drug and Task Force to help come along and help with this effort. And the task force was able to make several underage drinking cases on that river and making it safer for our families to use. This effort also helped decrease the number of boating accidents, injuries, and fatalities on the Buffalo River. Through this work, a letter of commendation was written to Director Carter on behalf of the task force and district attorney's office. One of the quotes was, "Boaters seem to have a sense of boating safety on the river that we haven't seen in a long time." And that came from Agent Steve Wilson. And all this is attributed to Pam's efforts. In addition, to expand on that program, she also had a concept to design a decal to put in the boat outfitters, the liveries, the boat that rent the craft. So she put a sticker in the boat to explain the boating safety on how to safely get down the river. And it was well received by the outfitter. So that was another good concept. Because in her thoughts that a lot of people on the river, their first time was, they needed that information before they started. So that was the reason for the sticker campaign. Pam has the unique ability to bring fellow officers, other agencies, and public together to achieve the goal of a safer community. She is well respected by the public. They listen to what she says. She uses her skills in a variety of methods and locations, from working court surveillance, covert surveillance on one of the busiest scenic rivers in the state, to working BUIs, boat accidents on a busy stretch of the Tennessee River. Pam's supervised by Cape Taylor, Major Cape Taylor, and her captain is Chuck Bourne, and her lieutenant is Jeff Skelton. He's not here. What's unique about this selection here, she will now be eligible to put in a regional, what we call SASBLA, the southern states, that involves 18 states and 2 territories. So she'll be included in that. So congratulations, Pam.
You heard of big wheels?
Well, I forgot to mention, Miss Pam's mom is here. She just recently retired, so I'm glad to see her here. I got blue up here for you. That's your 2000.
I just mentioned also that when I was in the voting business, I had a lot of time to work with both Pam and the next person that's coming up. And this
was a tradition we started a long time ago. The ship's wheel rather than flap in terms of steering people, unintended. Steering people toward a safe time and promoting safety. Something that we thought that we commemorate all that they've done, family done a great job. So thank you very much.
Thanks, man. On behalf of the agency, the Boating Law Enforcement Division would like to present the 2011 Part-Time Boating Officer of the Year Award to Alan Harrell. If that name rings a bell, last year was our inaugural year for this award to kind of recognize agencies, employees that go above and beyond. He won it last year also, so he's a repeat customer, if you will. Alan's assigned work areas in District 21. It includes mainly Old Hickory Lake, which Corps Engineers is one of their top 5 visited bodies of water in the nation. His work also extends over into Percy Priest, which is another top 5 body of water visited in the nation. And then also some of his works includes the downtown Cumberland River, downtown Nashville area. He is one of the original part-time officers 22 years ago. He's got 22 years service with us. That was a concept that the commission did 22 years ago to provide some extra manpower needed during peak boating enforcement times. So he's one of the originals. And just to reiterate what I said last year about him, he was able to bring 30 years of service to Metro Nashville. He had 5 years on patrol. He had 20 years as a canine officer, and his last 5 years were spent working narcotics with a drug dog. Alan's efforts this year, he inspected 455 vessels, resulting in 41 citations, 4 warnings, 1 boating under the influence arrest, and he helped 26 stranded boaters. Alan assisted with 12 boating accidents in District 21, and most notably was the fatality accident where he spent around the clock, and we got some side scan sonar technology, and he was out there day in, day out helping, and in end result, he helped locate, recover the body. So that was a special effort he did. Alan's boating safety efforts, he taught 8 boating safety classes, certifying 161 students. His outreach, he also oversees the Fraternal Order Police Camp there in Old Hickory. And during all these camps, he's able to incorporate boating safety to kids that wouldn't normally have that avenue to get to boating safety. He also gave presentations at the Safety Fair at the Charlie Daniels Band Park there in Mount Juliet. He conducted a presentation at the Tennessee Boy Scout Jamboree, also to the Tennessee Air National Guard. In addition, he had 2 television spots and 2 newspaper articles. I guess last week he was on, what channel was that? Channel 5. He did a safety message about life jacket wear. Now, currently, he's providing a Friday night class about once a month for the school-aged kids there in Wilson County, so he's doing that. And then where he really does well is the Nashville Boat Show. He incorporates our fatal vision goggles to kind of make the boaters aware of the dangers of operating impaired. He's supervised, again, by Major Kate Taylor. His captain is Jim Vaughn. He's here, and his lieutenant is Jim Hooper. What he don't know, yesterday we submitted him for the NASBA Educator of the Year Award. So he's been submitted as the Tennessee selection for the Boater Educator of the Year Award, which he will now get thrown in a regional competition where it involves 18 states and 2 territories. And it's easy to see why Alan's a huge asset for our agency's mission to keep boaters safe and enjoy our waters. Thanks, Alan. Congratulations. Schuster.
This time I'll ask Director Carter if he will about the archery in the schools program.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. You might remember, Commissioners, a couple of months ago, Tom Bennett, who heads up the National Archery in the Schools program, came and spoke to the commission because Tennessee now is at the point where we have 10% of our schools participating in this program. It is a great program. The reason I just want to make a couple announcements before Don Crawford comes up to give you his presentation. I was down there last week when the state competition was going on, and it's really a heartwarming thing to see. It's a couple of amazing points. One is you have that many 100 kids all absolutely operating exactly as one body. I've never seen such a structured event, and I've actually had teachers who've come to me and start to talk about the program and would get so emotional that they'd have to stop because they said they had actually seen it change people's lives. And the only reason I wanted to bring all that forward is that it's quite a program. It's known nationally as well, and the Tennessee teams that qualified for the Nationals will be going there next month. But in all of those, you have to have somebody who pushes forward the program, and for us, that's Don Crawford. There are a number of agency people involved in it. It goes across the ranks from wildlife officers to wildlife managers to I&E personnel to the secretarial staff. Everybody gets involved, and it's because they want to, but Don has coordinated that, and I just want to say thanks to Don and tell you that I think it's a great program before he comes forward. So, Don?
This thing's on, I hope. I appreciate the opportunity to come down here today. Thank y'all very much, and appreciate the kind words there for that. And this is going to be just a quick, short synopsis about our tournament this year. This year was our 6th tournament this year, and we held it it was April the 2nd and 3rd at the Tennessee Miller Coliseum there in Murfreesboro. Just a quick glance at some of the benefits that he was talking about as far as NAS, the program. To me, the best part of it is that student self-confidence we build. We build focus, concentration, better behavior, and believe it or not, we can prove it, that attendance is better on archery days than any other day at some of these schools. You know, not only does this help in the as far as just in the school system, but also it helps once they get out of the school system. You know, helps in all the other classes that they've got going on. So that's just sort of some of the benefits of NAS, what we look at. So we began October of 2004 with 12 schools, and today we have 234 schools across the state. We approximately have about 35,000 students annually that participate in the NAS program. Now, not everybody comes to the NAS to the tournament, but we've got that many out there that are participating. So it is a fairly large number, especially when you start looking at all the schools that get to participate in this. The basic archery instructor training is taught by us, and all teachers must attend a one-day, 8-hour training to become certified. We'd like for every teacher that's in the school that's going to help with it to be certified, but we just require at least one. And what we're seeing now is a lot of the parents are starting to jump on board, and they're starting to get certified, and they're coming out and helping when they're starting to have these start practicing for the tournaments and everything, which is really starting to turn into a family affair. NASP is for all students, not just those that have the great athletic skills and abilities. And that's probably one of the best things about it is, not everybody can throw the football, 50 or 60 yards. Not everybody can do, cartwheels all the way down the gym floor. Not everybody can dunk the basketball. I mean, we're reaching a whole new kid is what we're reaching right here. That's what we're trying to reach. There are a few physical disabilities that cannot participate, but most of them can. This young man right here, he's from Bledsoe County. He has a type of MS. This is his 4th year at our tournament, and he as far as his walking ability is not really great. So they designed a special stool for him. That's how he shoots. We've had him there with broken arms. Had a little girl last year that was there in a wheelchair that shot in the tournament. So there's impairments, but we can just about get across all those to those. Some of the special need kids, those are some of the best things that we've seen as far as some of those that participate as well. This year we had a record field. We We had 1,244 students, representing 56 schools that signed up this year to shoot. The grand total that came, we had right at 1,100 kids showed up at the tournament. So that's a pretty good showing. That's how many came. You're always going to have those few that are going to drop out here and there, but 1,100, that's the most we've ever had. Last year we had 832. So this will probably be our last year at the Miller Coliseum, probably. This coming year, probably. Things keep going. This year, our high school championship team this year for the 4th year in a row is Van Buren County. So the 4th year in a row they've won that. So they'll be going to the national tournaments. Our middle school this year, a new school. This is Rockville Middle School. They're in Rutherford County. They won our middle school division. And then a brand new school also, our elementary school this year was Buchanan Elementary, another Rutherford County school. Rutherford County, I tell you, they picked this program up, man. They're really going with it strong. What they're doing is their school resource officers are who is running this program. They're doing it in all the schools. That's who's teaching all these kids. That's who's doing these. They're school resource officers. I mean, and their sheriff is all behind this, and I mean, he's giving money to them, and I mean, it's amazing what they're doing over there in Rutherford County for them. This year, our overall, we always give overall, as far as a male and a female. Both of these are 9th graders. Hunter Mason this year, he's from Van Buren County High School, and this year he set a tournament record for us. We've never had anybody reach 290 before. The possible total scores you can get, the highest you can get is 300. This year he shot a 293. And also we had a 292 and a 290 this year. That's the best we've ever seen so far. And then Haley Corder, she's a 9th grader from Bledsoe County High School. She shot a 283. So we had some really good scores this year. The winning score at the national tournament normally is about 297 to 298. That's usually the winning score as far as overall. So I mean, we're getting there. We're getting close. That's for sure. Like I said, this is not just a one-man show. I promise you that. We had over 50 staff workers, people there. Like I said, we had technicians and managers. We had, secretarial work. And I want to thank all the regional managers and all the program managers, and all the chiefs for allowing their folks to come out and help me, especially Region 2. They provided a little bit over half of the staff to work this event. We had Lee coming out there taking all the pictures. We had the IT people there helping us because our scoring system is computerized. I'm not the greatest on computers, and I try to stay away from the scoring section of it. But the IT folks, they're standing there just in case something does happen to go awry. So I do appreciate all that. It was just a great event. It worked out really great this year. I mean it's sort of an orchestrated setup event, takedown and everything. It's kind of large, but I mean we've pretty much got down to a science now, and I appreciate all the help from everybody and all the support for sure. This year, that's qualified to go to the national tournament in Louisville, Kentucky, which is May the 11th and 12th. We have 5 high school teams that qualified. We have 3 middle school teams. We had 1 elementary school. We've got a little over 50 individuals. That's 25 males and 25 females that also qualified to go to the tournament. So we'll have probably about 250 kids possible that could go to the national tournament this year. So that's a pretty good showing for us. It's probably the most we've ever sent right there. It's probably the most, especially on high school teams. The way they work is on high school teams, you always send the top team that wins, but anybody that shoots 3,000 points or more on their team, they qualify. We had 4 more teams that did that. For middle school, it's 2,900 points, and for elementary, it's 2,800 points. So that's where that is. This year, they're looking at about 8,000 students that's going to be at the national tournament. The Guinness Book of World Records is going to be there this year to verify that this is going to be the largest archery tournament. It was held by China, but this year we're fixing to take it over with NASP. So if you haven't seen anything like this, I would encourage you to go take a peek at this. Louisville's not too far away, about 3.5 hours from right here, 3 hours. But they do all this on a Friday and a Saturday, and it's pretty large and it's pretty festive. I tell you, it's some kind of tournament. Like I said, once again, next year they're going to host us. We're going to host one more time at the Miller Coliseum. My tentative date right now is April the 4th and 5th, which is a Thursday and a Friday. But we're kicking around the possibility of maybe a weekend instead of during the week. So we had several schools that didn't get to come because of bus money, paying the gas, we're thinking on a weekend that maybe the parents would be able to pitch in and bring the kid to there. We're just sort of kicking that around. We're going to see how that works, but that's where we're at. And hopefully next year I'd say next year we'll probably be somewhere around 1,600 kids probably that'll register for the tournament. I hope that's where we're at. So with all that, any questions so far? Okay.
Don, I attended for the first time this year and was really impressed. I knew about the program, I'd heard about it, but to walk in that Coliseum and see all those kids lined up, and I was really impressed with how TWRA responded to a need, and you run it so well. I mean, when you just get 2 kids together, it's chaos, but you have that many kids, and Don's up there blowing this whistle, and they stand like at attention, all these kids, and they listen to his commands just by, what, one blow, 2 blow, 3 blow, something like that?
It goes by whistle commands. It's international style target archery is what it is, and that's how it works. And 2 whistles means get bow. So they go from a waiting line, they go get their bow, and they go up on the shooting line, and they put their bow on their toes. So, get bow, 2 whistles, 2 words. We kind of keep it elementary here. 1 whistle means shoot, and once they've shot their number, they shoot 5 arrows at a time. We shoot 15 arrows from 10 meters, and we shoot 15 arrows from 15 meters. But after they shoot their first 5 arrows, they hang their bow up, go back behind the waiting line, then the next 3 whistles takes them down to the scoring line where they pull their arrows and they score. Then they walk back, and we keep repeating that scenario. I guess one of the funniest things I heard was Mike Buckner. He was over in we had 2 arenas going at the same time. Matt Clary was running the other one. But the Anderson County was the first year they ever been. They brought like 4 different elementary schools. And this little boy, he was a 4th grader. He's from Briceville Elementary, and they backed up to 15 meters to shoot. He looked up at Mike and he said, "We've never shot this far back before." That's all he told him. Mike said the first arrow they didn't get to the target. He told me, well, just give it a little more loft. He said the next one up in the rafters. He said, but he said, and we kept it all safe. But he said finally he did get it down there. But the little kid, he said it was really great. It was fun. Had a good time.
It's amazing to see these little kids lined up and shooting. So what is the youngest age there?
Youngest is 4th grade. We go from 4th to 12th grade. So whatever, my math's not good on what 4th graders are. Mine of all, was that 7, 9,
Yeah.
8 or 9? Okay, something like that. Yeah, that's where they're at right there.
Well, you're doing a great job, and
Thank you.
just thanks for taking the lead on that.
Okay. I've got about a 2.5-minute video. Do we have time? Okay. You want to say? Oh.
questions? Yes, sir.
Well, thank you. That's a great job you all do. A lot of effort put into it. Do the kids furnish their own bows?
Most of it is the school. The school has them.
Okay.
The school gets a kit. We have a $1,000 grant that we give to the school. The kit's about $3,000. But what's happening is, the more they get into it, probably more than half of those kids there went out and bought their own bow. That's usually what happens. That's what they do. I can speak for Meigs County. I mean, I know one of the teachers down there in Meigs County is a really good friend, and she's got about 70 kids that's in her archery club. Every one of them have their own bow. So that's what we're seeing. Every one of them's going out and buying their own bow and bringing their own bow.
But with the school having them, those that can't afford them or get them,
Yes, sir.
they're available to
Yes, so
them.
they're available. Also, when they come to the tournament, if the school doesn't have enough, we have loaner bows that we loan them during that tournament. Because this year we had about 50 or 60 bows that we could have loaned out. This year was the least we've ever loaned out. So they're all going and buying their own bow now is what they're doing.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Does the, will a school system usually buy just one kit and they move it from school to school, like elementary to middle, or it just depends on the county or what?
Usually what we like to see is each school have their own kit. That's what we like to have. Because if you get to that where they start moving it around, they don't seem to do as much archery. But if they can afford to get their own kit and keep that kit there, it seems to be a little bit more. Seem to be doing it a whole lot more. Now sometimes that's where you got to start. You know, I start wherever they want me to start. I'll do whatever they want me to do to start off. But you know, I help them out. There's a few grants out there. Luckily, in the last 2 years, we've been getting about $10,000 to $15,000 worth of grants through the NAS program itself, just for archery kits. So instead of I got $1,000, then I can pitch in another $500 to another $1,000 from NAS. So I mean, schools aren't having too much problem coming up with $1,000 right now. But you know, we'll start any way they want me to start. Thank y'all.
I just wanted to add a couple of things. The partnerships that have gone on, as Don said, we have grants that we do give out to schools for beginning, and the schools have found out that the more buy-in they have, the students earning the money and that kind of thing helps even promote the school's program farther. We did, I guess, the largest grant we ever got, I think it was from Gaylord for $25,000.
We had 100,000.
100,000?
We got 25,000 for 4 years. Last year was our last year for that.
That started about 5 years ago or something?
5 years.
So that's quite a commitment on their part to get that program started. And I also wanted to mention, Don talked about the number.
You're the first commissioner ever came.
So there's room for you too. But we, the handicapped folks or special needs kids, whichever were happened to be there, just wanted to mention that's a really great part of the program. An athletic program a lot of people can't get involved in. And to go on further than that, I just wanted to mention that came up yesterday in terms of hunting and how would the agency look at doing more of that. We do some of that already. And I was talking with Dan Hicks this morning on Cordell Hall. They have a special area for handicap hunters up there. There's actually, is it a wild side show, Dan, that will be?
That's on the website.
That shows one of the handicap hunters during deer season and taking a deer. We have, I know in Region 1 and maybe others as well, there are special blinds in waterfowl areas for accessible for handicap hunters. So that's going on already, and we'd like to do more, but I did want to just mention that's already there. But again, thanks to the Archery in the School program. The last comment I would have is that I don't remember all the statistics, so I'll just kind of remind you that when Tom Bennett was here talking about it nationally, which applies to Tennessee, it is absolutely amazing the number of the kids that go through this program that have never hunted but go on to buy hunting and fishing licenses because it was a way to get involved in the program. And what's even more astounding is that it seemed to me it was 50-something% of them go on to become fishermen, which I don't know that tie, but it must be something with the outdoors. But anyway, thanks for your time.
Thank you. Thanks again, Don. Great job. Yesterday, Ms. Miller got out of here before I got to recognize her and thank her. Mary Miller's here with us from the Forestry Service and gave a little presentation yesterday morning. And I want to thank you, Mary, for being here and sharing that information with us. Hopefully things will get better up there and improve a little bit under the current regulations. So at this time, we'll go to Wildlife Management, Commissioner Schuster. I think that's all we had yesterday, wasn't it?
Sorry about that. The Wildlife Committee recognizes Daryl Radijak, Chief of the Wildlife Division.
Thank you, Commissioner Schuster and all the commissioners. What I'd like to do today is just provide a summary of what was presented. The 3 hours that we discussed the hunting recommendations for 2012, trust me, are summarized in this one sheet here, so hopefully it'll be a much shorter presentation than yesterday's. But what I'd like to do is just go over the main things we discussed yesterday. There were 5 proclamations that we brought forward to the commission that the agency has recommended changing for 2012. The primary discussions yesterday took place regarding Proclamation 12-06, which would be the big game hunting season proclamation. There's 4 major recommendations that are taking place in this recommendation. The first is that we'd like to increase the antlerless archery season bag limit in Unit B to 4 deer per season. Originally, or last year, it was set at 2 deer per season. We'd like to increase that to 4 per season. We'd also like to allow all the Unit B muzzleloader hunters the entire 14-day muzzleloader season to harvest their 1 antlerless deer. We also looked at adding numerous non-quota antlerless gun hunts, in particular in Jackson, Morgan, Campbell, and Scott County. A number of the other counties are shifting hunts around, but for the most part, we're seeing increases in the antlerless opportunities in Units A and B. Regarding whitetail deer, we'd also, well, not whitetail deer, but red deer. We'd like to expand the red deer season. We're trying to remove that red deer population from the landscape, and we're going to allow hunters to harvest a red deer in Claiborne County, south of the Powell River, throughout the entire deer season. So while they're out there deer hunting, if they encounter a red deer, the hunters would be allowed to take it. In regards to black bears, there were only 2 major recommendations, and all of them involve increased opportunities and more liberalization of the seasons. First off, we'd like to increase the bear hunting days, and this being the dog hunts. On 3 separate hunts, the number of days we're increasing varies from 1 day all the way up to 11 days, depending on what county we're talking about, but all of them involve increases in the bear dog days. The second major aspect of the bear recommendations involved increases to the bear training days, and those range from anywhere from 14 days, or from 4 days to 14 days, again, depending on what county you're in. In regards to fall turkey, we would like to allow archers to harvest the full county bag limit. It used to be that archers were restricted to 1 turkey, and it was a bonus turkey, and then you could kill the remaining turkeys with the gun. We're going to allow archers to take the full county limit. We are also adding fall turkey hunts in Cumberland, Grundy, Hamilton, Madison, Putnam, Sequatchie, and Van Buren counties, as well as increasing the bag limits in many of the East Tennessee counties. One instance in which I misspoke, or I overlooked something. We are reducing the fall turkey bag limit. Yesterday I mentioned Giles County. It's actually Giles, Lawrence, and Wayne County. The 3 counties on the southern tier, there's concerns about the turkey population down there, so we are drawing back the fall turkey harvest. The other thing which didn't involve a change, it's just a different way of doing business, is we are moving all the elk recommendations into the big game proclamation. Obviously, we're not recommending any changes since those seasons are already set for 2012. That summarizes Proclamation 12-06, which was the big game hunting season. The next 2 proclamations, 07 and 08, were the Wildlife Management Area Proclamation and the National Wildlife Refuge Proclamation. Within both of those, obviously, we have season date adjustments on numerous WMAs and National Wildlife Refuges, but the 2 major ones that we felt warrant mentioning again were we are adding a wild hog control season in both Catoosa and Skinner Mountain, and this will be a period in which we have the public assist the agency in removing wild hogs with the use of dogs on those 2 areas. There is also a recommendation that came from the U.S. Forest Service to close Tellico and Ocoee Bear Reserves to the raccoon hunting. And that was, again, a special request by the U.S. Forest Service. And that pretty much sums up all the WMA and NWR recommendations. The other two, if I don't mind speaking on behalf of Steve Nifong, our Assistant Chief of Law Enforcement, he presented two other proclamations really quick. The falconry proclamation, we're simply opening that up to allow falconers an additional month in which they are allowed to take the birds for their falconry purposes. That was approved by the Fish and Wildlife Service. And lastly, the last proclamation that we brought forward, or Steve brought forward to you yesterday, was the Manner and Means proclamations, and he went over numerous changes in which we clarified regulations regarding weapon restrictions, especially as it pertains to small game and coyote hunting. And there's a few other recommendations in there, and this was a very brief summary, which I'm not known to do. Everything that we outlined as far as recommended changes, I talked to Don King, our chief of the I&E department, and besides doing our press release with the summary of changes, we are also going to make available the red line versions of all the proclamations so the public can see absolutely everything that we're recommending from each individual WMA and so forth, and we'll make that available. Having said that, we're also going to solicit public comments for the next 30 days until the May meeting when the commission acts on these proclamations. But the last thing I'd like to add is, in addition to the recommendations that the agency brought forward, the commission itself yesterday requested that the agency consider extending the end of the deer gun season to the previous date. Just so you know, before last year we made a move in which we closed the deer season on January 1st. Prior to that deer season typically went to the first full weekend in January, and the commission asked us to look into whether or not that would be something that's reasonable to do, and we're more than happy to do that. They also requested that we continue to pursue information on buck limit preferences, and we'll continue to do that with our human dimension surveys. And there was also a request from the commission which involved a proclamation that we did not intend to open, but we explored different options with the quail season, and we'll continue to entertain those ideas. If you have any questions regarding all the major season setting recommendations, I'd be happy to answer them right now.
Thank you, Daryl. Commissioner Griggs?
Daryl, small game quails, that proclamation 11-06, is that correct?
Yes, I actually have it here. This is a small game proclamation, and this is the proclamation that was set last year. The agency recommended closing the quail season a month earlier. Historically, it would go to the last day in February, and if you see here, we changed the quail season to the last day in January. So this is the current proclamation that's in effect.
Madam Chairman, I would like to make a motion to amend the small game proclamation 11-06 on quail. And the amendment is to extend the quail season on private land to end the last day of February, but leave the current closing date on public land. I'd like to make that motion to amend that.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Are there any discussions from the commission? Audience? Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The ayes carry, and the amendment to proclamation 11-06 passes.
If I may make one comment, the one thing that we did last year with the closing earlier, we did look at opening it up a little earlier to give them the same amount of days. So if this moves forward, which is perfectly fine with the commission's consent, we will actually be expanding quail seasons over the last 2-year time period. I just want that to be known.
Do you want to do that, or? Do you not want to think about on private land?
I believe on private land, I think we probably ought to go back to a traditional date and take those two back. You want to discuss it?
Yeah, that's what we're doing. I mean, I don't think we ought to expand the season, obviously. I mean, we're just trying to give private landowners that are creating habitat and working hard for the quail, to give them the opportunity to benefit from it. So I don't think we ought to have it for 2 more weeks.
Then the proper way to do that is to amend my amendment, so we'll have to go back and do that. Would that be December 1?
No, believe it or not, this is the previous, it wasn't a 2-week expansion. I was just looking here. This is the proclamation that was prior to last year's proclamation. And quail went from the 2nd day in November to the last day in February. And after last year's recommendation, we went from the first Saturday in November to the last day in January. So it was only a 1-week addition on the front end.
It'd go back to like it was. Right. I'll probably make that, I'll make the motion to amend that, to change it to cigar.
We'll discuss amongst our staff as well whether or not that's a necessary move as well. We ended up adjusting the rabbit seasons as well, so we'll discuss with our staff regarding that move, whether or not it's necessary to take those days off the front end, and we'll provide
I'll just
information.
withdraw. Okay.
Madam Chairman, just real quick, and a sidebar. I appreciate your comments yesterday that we don't have a lot of good data right now on quail. And going back to some of the discussion, I believe you agreed with that we need to be addressing the habitat. It would be great to begin that data collection on our WMAs, on our public lands, and start the habitat, start building a database that I think would give you a better level of comfortability as far as a recommendation. So just that's a word of encouragement more than anything, Darrell. Thank you, ma'am.
We can do that.
Cheryl?
I think it's probably best if you go ahead and vote on your rescinding of that amendment. Since you voted on to pass it, you need to vote on it to rescind it. You're rescinding your amendment.
What I was gonna do was I was gonna amend the amendment, but I rescinded it, so you don't vote on that?
Yeah.
Normally you rescind it, you don't vote.
But you've already voted. You voted on the amendment, but now you're rescinding the amendment.
No, they're not.
No.
You're not.
I was gonna make a motion to change the start of the season.
That's where he was going.
Okay,
That's why I was gonna amend the
so your
amendment.
amendment passed, and
Yes.
that's the way you want it?
Right.
Okay, I
But
apologize.
Darrell can-
We'll
That's okay, thanks, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Just being sure.
Yeah. But and when we meet next month, it's something we can
Yes.
correct then, that's not.
Yes, but according to the slides I showed about, early season is not as impactful as that late season stuff. So the fact of that additional week in the early season, our biologists may feel that we could just leave that alone.
To be honest though.
I worked hard on that presentation.
And I know last year, I think I made a motion to start the season earlier, but the birds are small, so, it's.
Yeah, we very well may come back and say it's not that big of a
They're
deal.
awful. Yeah, okay, all right, thank
I
you.
just wanted to make you aware
Yes, sir.
that it was
Thank you.
expanded.
Any other questions or comments? Great. Thank you, Darrell.
Just one more procedural thing. Did only the committee vote on that, or did the entire commission vote?
It needs to be.
It means the entire commission, since it's today.
Let me-
No, just the committee did it.
Yeah, well, let's do it. All right, we've had a motion and a second to amend the season on the Bob White quail by adding back the month of February and having the season close the last day of February. So with a motion and a second, all in favor, say.
I'd like to call for a roll call vote.
Okay.
That be fair? Jimmy, let's go.
Yes.
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 Motion carries. Jude, is Tim here?
I think Daryl took care of everything.
Okay, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
that's all,
Thank you, Chairman Brown.
yes. Okay, at this time, we'll proceed to Government Relations and Communications Committee. Commissioner Griggs.
Thank you, Chairman Brown. At this time, I'd like to call Ed Carter to the podium. I think he has a presentation on Ducks Unlimited resolution honoring Ducks Unlimited's 75th anniversary. Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Griggs. We mentioned last commission meeting, this is the 75th anniversary of Ducks Unlimited. They'll be holding their national convention at Opryland Hotel in late May. The Tennessee legislature has passed a resolution as well honoring Ducks Unlimited. And I think the feeling last month among the commission, it would be appropriate to do the same thing from the commission, and especially since the national celebration will be here in Tennessee. So with your permission, I'll read the resolution, and then it would be appropriate to get a motion to pass if that's your desire. It's to be a resolution to honor and commend the personnel and volunteers of Ducks Unlimited in celebrating 75 years of habitat improvement and restoration, resulting in tremendous benefits to waterfowl, other wildlife species, and the citizens of Tennessee. Whereas Ducks Unlimited was created in 1937 during the Dust Bowl, when North America's drought-plagued waterfowl populations had plunged to unprecedented lows. And whereas determined not to sit idly by as the continent's waterfowl dwindled beyond recovery, a small group of sportsmen joined together to form an organization that became known as Ducks Unlimited. And whereas this organization is now the world's largest and most effective private waterfowl and wetlands conservation organization, and is able to multilaterally deliver its work through a series of partnerships with private individuals, landowners, scientific communities, government agencies such as the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agencies, and other entities. And whereas waterfowl are not only beneficiaries, or not the only beneficiaries of Ducks Unlimited habitat work, as wetlands improve the overall health of our environment by recharging and purifying groundwater, moderating floods and reducing soil erosion, and are nature's most productive ecosystems, providing critical habitat to more than 900 wildlife species and invaluable recreation opportunity for people to enjoy. And whereas the United States alone has lost more than half of its original wetlands and continues to lose more than 80,000 acres of the wetlands most important to wildlife each year, and whereas Ducks Unlimited is a grassroots, volunteer-based organization of conservationists and outdoor enthusiasts whose volunteers hosted more than 4,400 grassroots fundraising events during fiscal year 2011 throughout the United States, Canada, and Mexico. And whereas event dollars represent some of Ducks Unlimited's most important sources of revenue, and is able to spend these funds in high-priority areas and use them to leverage additional funds from other sources. And whereas Ducks Unlimited has either influenced or conserved more than 108 million acres in North America and partnered directly with the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency to enhance and restore 47,000 acres and influence an additional 166,500 acres of critical waterfowl breeding grounds. And whereas Ducks Unlimited has its mission to conserve, restore, and manage wetlands and associated habitats in North American waterfowl, and whereas these habitats have been critical to restoring waterfowl populations, they also benefit other wildlife and people. Now, therefore, let it be resolved by the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Commission, the Tennessee Wildlife Resources Agency concurring, that we hereby honor and commend Ducks Unlimited personnel and volunteers in its successful endeavor to improve habitats for waterfowl and other wildlife species in North America, as well as its citizens, and offer our sincere thanks and appreciation for a job well done.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Passes.
Thank you, Commissioner Griggs, and I'd be remiss if I didn't mention it. Commissioner Kenning is the incoming chair of Ducks Unlimited for Tennessee.
Does anyone on the commission have any comments or any questions for the director? Anyone in the audience? Mr. Cannon?
Before I got on this commission, there's been great things between the two organizations. It's gonna be fun to see what happens in the next few years.
Well,
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, I'd like to call up Nat Johnson and give us a legislative update. Nat?
Thank you, Commissioner. As Director Carter said, Representative Wargo did have a very similar resolution passed, signed by the General Assembly, and the Governor has signed that. It's being framed and will be available for the meeting that will take place. We're getting down to some very quick agendas that will take place in the legislature. I think we've taken care of a lot of the issues that we had before us. But it's come down to the time where you've got to be very careful about what goes on. When a lot of the rules get suspended, things can happen very quickly. So you have to be on our toes. The acquisition of the Doe Mountain property in Johnson County appears to have been completed. It's going to be owned by the state, but will be managed in a very unique partnership. It's going to be both state and local entities will be involved in this management authority. We will be on that. Environment and conservation will be on it. Economic community development. A lot of local leaders will be on it. And it's going to be, I think, a unique opportunity to see how you can take a piece of property like that of some over 8,000 acres and use it for not only local economic development, but with the goal in mind to save the mountain and to have it a multi-use facility, but to continue to use it as an economic stimulus in that area. And I think that the management group that's going to be set up, it will be it'll be very interesting to see how that's going to work. But I think everybody in the area is very excited, and we did manage that at one time, that the entire mountain, and we will be part of the management team as it goes forward. But that management authority has been set up through the legislature. The wild hog transport bill is passed now both by the House and the Senate. The House passed it a little bit different than what the Senate did, but the Senate is going to get it back Monday night, and I see no reason why it won't be completed by Monday night. This has been a real partnership with the Farm Bureau, Radonna and Stephan, and what they've done to help us, and the Department of Agriculture and Carol McDonald. I mean, when we ran into our little problems last week, Farm Bureau really stepped up, brought outside counsel into the meeting, and had some very good discussions with some of the attorneys that are members of the General Assembly, and worked that language out to everybody's satisfaction, and the bill passed in the House with 91 positive votes. But it's been a real joint effort between all the groups, not only those, but all the partners that have signed on to the MOU on the wild hog issue. We have been trying to stay very neutral on the issue of the storage of firearms in vehicles on private property, guns in parking lot or guns in trunks bill. I think a lot of you know that we were brought into that issue in the Senate, but have assurances from the House sponsor that no bill will go forward with from the House with us being any part of that or having a possession of a hunting and fishing license falling into the same venue as a possession of a handgun carry permit. So the new commission Sunrise bill, I think we'll see some real movement on it next week. It's in the Senate Finance Committee on Tuesday, and it will more than likely go to the floor either Thursday or Monday night. It's passed the substantive committees in the House. It'll go before Calendar and Rules, I would say, on Wednesday, and it could be on the floor either Thursday or Monday. So I'd say by the first of next week, that bill will also be passed. I don't see any real issues with that. I think a lot of discussion and working out of details has taken place in the committee. So I really don't foresee any potential floor amendments on that. Pretty much wraps it up, if you got any questions.
Anyone on the commission have any questions for Nat? Anyone in the audience? Thank you, Nat.
Thank you.
Chairman.
We'll now go to budget, non-game and endangered species with Commissioner Parks.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Brad Miller.
Thank you, Commissioner. Yeah, this was the request for a budget expansion to expand the West Tennessee forestry budget by $17,000 to be able to accommodate two grants, one from Arbor Day Foundation for $12,000 and the other from the American Forest Global Relief Fund for $5,000, so that we can use those to defray our tree planting costs.
Anybody have any questions on the commission? Any audience? Mr. Chairman, the committee voted and I recommend approval of the budget as explained and as presented.
All right, thank you. The Budget Committee voted, and I recommend approval of the budget expansion as presented. Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Tim?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This was the budget expansion request for $10,000 for, I guess, the final installment of a project that was begun, I guess, 3 years ago to replace these aging and broken screw gates at Old Hickory Wildlife Management Area to allow us to flood the waterfowl areas.
Anybody on the commission have any questions? Anyone from the audience? Mr. Chairman, the committee voted and I recommend approval of the budget expansion as presented.
All right. The Budget Committee voted, and I recommend approval of the budget expansion as presented. Do I have a second? All right, I have a second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion carries.
Thank you.
I have a financial report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In your book, there should be a two-page report, financial report. Today I'll be reporting through the month of February. And the at the top of the page, the boating fund is approximately 11% behind the same point in time in collections from the previous year. Again, as I explained last month, oftentimes there's differences between how Finance Administration actually deposits the funds. There's approximately $100,000 that will increase or actually reduce that $284,000 where we're behind the prior year. At the end of the year, it'll all rectify itself. I don't think it's any reason for concern at this point. On the expense portion of the boating fund, we're at approximately 37% of the allotment through the month of February. Middle of the page, the wildlife fund, we're approximately 5% ahead of where we were at this point in time last year, and what we've seen in the last 6 months is license sales have really sold, presumably because of the weather that we've had. So next couple of reports should be even better. On the expense side, we're approximately 55% of the allotment for the year. The Watchable Wildlife Endowment Fund, we have approximately $28,000 of an available balance that can be spent towards those projects. And the Lifetime Endowment has $31 million, approximately $400,000 in that account. On the second page, the Wetlands Acquisition Fund at the top of the page has approximately $6.5 million balance as we go through the month of February. We have approximately $2 million yet to collect, which we should be able to collect without any problem through the end of June from the transfer tax. The maintenance fund at the center of the page, usually like to zero it out. We had a late posting of interest. As of March, it'll be transferred to the balance to the acquisition fund. On the compensation, the in lieu of tax account occurring in the month of February was a transfer of funding to pay for the in lieu of tax from the acquisition. That's why you see a $400,000 figure down there. Transfer occurred in the month of February. It puts that account at a balance of approximately $742,000. And as you recall, traditionally that tax, once it's certified by the comptroller's office, is usually paid in the month of May or June. Are there any questions or comments?
Thank you, Ken.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. All right, is any other business to come before the commission at this time? May meeting is 17th and 18th here in Nashville. Did we set the June meeting date last time? 14th and 15th. That also is in Nashville. Okay, any other business? I want to thank Darrell and the members of your staff. That was a great job yesterday. Presentation, very informative, and I know a lot of work and time was spent putting that together, and we appreciate it. It's a good job. Anything further? All right, we'll be adjourned until May 17th.